Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Sarah Liz and today I am in need of an apology card. So I'm going to use this typing class large die of the month. It's an old one that's on the clearance rack at Spellbinders for 20 bucks. And I want to turn this into a gift card holder. There are two separate dies for the keyboard of the typewriter, and I actually only need the one that has all of the keys cut out. And so you have one die to cut out the outside and one die to cut out the keys. I also want to cut out the keys from some silver cardstock, but the stuff I have is really thin and would be recessed into that blue background for the keys. So I am adding some Sizzix double-sided adhesive sheet to some heavyweight gray cardstock, and then I will add my silver right on top. So it's going to make it pretty thick so they will stand up from the sort of background keyboard that I created. I showed you the Sizzix sheets I got from Stampin' Up. They're bigger when you get them from Stampin' Up. They're like a 12x6 instead of a 6x6. They don't say Sizzix on them anymore, but I think it's the same thing. Anyway, I'm also trying out these Crafter's Companion paper piercing hold and release sheets. I got these from Crop and Create, an event I attended a couple of weeks ago, and this was in like our bag of supplies. And it's like the weight of some watercolor cardstock. And the idea is that you run it through your die cut machine and it will hold all the little pieces in place where they go and make it easier to paper piece. I ran this through my Gemini and I found that these red pieces, those are going to be the actual like tops of the keys, cut out beautifully and stuck to the hold and release sheet. But this one, with the silver keys, I think because there's so much cardstock already, they did not stick to the hold and release sheet, but they did stay sort of beautifully in place in the actual piece of silver. So because there's so much thickness, the little dot where you put your pokey tool in there and poke them out, that is also raised on those keys. So I just took my bone folder to flatten that out. At the top of the typewriter, there is a flap that there are instructions for on the back of the package, but I just cut it off. I don't know. I went rogue. I wasn't sure I needed it. So on both pieces, I cut that off. I'm just stacking them up to create a little extra stability. Now I am going to add some Scor-Tape to the back side of my keyboard. Okay, so I have a 1/2 inch and then I have a 1/4 inch, like whatever thickness you have, it's gonna work. But when I am paper piecing these keys in here, I don't want to have to put glue on everything. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just adding some adhesive that will sit right behind that keyboard so I can just pop those keys in. It was so fast. I don't know why I've never done this before, but it worked super slick. So I start placing all my little keys into these sticky holes, and I realized pretty quickly that I just need to poke all of them out of that cardstock. It's not unusual if you're running a die through with that level of thickness that they're kind of wedged in there. This other piece I ran through with those hold and release sheets from Crafter's Companion, and it stuck beautifully, and those would have lifted straight off with my wax pickup stick. So next time, notes for next time, but for me, the dimension I got from the added cardstock really mattered. I didn't want it to look like the keys were way back behind the keyboard. And so you can kind of see, I'm trying to show you the dimension. It's hard to pick up on camera. I am going to take my bone folder and just kind of rub it over all of that, A, to make it stick pretty well, but B, just like with the little red tops of the keys, the places that have a hole in the die are a little more raised, and I know I have to glue something else on top. I took some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and I just put it on a piece of scratch cardstock. That way I can pick these up and just start quickly adding them to the tops of my keys. So again, I'm just using my pokey tool. Anything that is thin will work to add that glue. And then I do like 1/2 a row, 2/3 of a row at a time. And I'm just going right along. Okay, let me tell you why I need an apology card. So a couple of months ago, we started putting my youngest son in daycare on Tuesdays. He's been going Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a long time, but our schedule's changed and now he goes on Tuesdays. It has always been my job to pick him up on Tuesdays, it just wasn't from daycare. And I don't usually pick him up from daycare. You know where this is going. So I got pizza for dinner, his favorite garlic chicken pizza. And I am imagining him coming into the house and being like, Mom, what's for dinner? Like he always does. And I say squid lips. And like, I'm picturing this and his pizza's on the table and my husband walks in the door and I'm like, hey, where's Finn? Where's Finn? And daycare closes at 5:30 and it is 5:31 and I tear out of the house. I didn't speed. I'm not a speeder, but I was 5 minutes late to daycare. I felt so, so bad. This is an apology card for Miss Megan. Thank you, Miss Megan. I'm so sorry I was late. You guys, I forgot my kid. I forgot my kid. I'm working on it. I have added an alarm to my phone so that it won't happen again. Okay, so now I am just removing the double-sided adhesive from the back of the keyboard. And then I added a touch of glue so that I have a little bit of wiggle room. As I go to place this, there's sort of an indentation around where this belongs. So I'm just centering it right in there. And that finishes up the sort of keyboard piece. This is the biggest part of the card. And honestly, it took 10 minutes. I so thought that was going to take a lot longer. This is the Simon Says Stamp Thank You background text. And I love background text as an easy way to create a backdrop for whatever die cuts I've got going on my card. So then I'm adding some light gray ink and I'm going to stamp that onto a light gray card base. So this is just a little bit of tone on tone, right? And I kind of felt like this text mimicked a little bit like a typewriter text, not exactly, but close enough for me. And I'm going to hold this up so that you can see it. It's really thoughtful. And if somebody actually takes the time to read the background, I don't know if people do this. I make these text backgrounds and who knows, but that to me was just a little extra something. There is a slot at the top of the typewriter that the die cuts in there. And so I cut a piece of white cardstock to 2.5 inches. And then I just have a hotel key that I keep as my like measuring guide for anything gift card related. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make this mechanism work. So I'm adding some temporary tape right around where I want that typewriter to be. And then this is the one I cut out originally. Anytime I'm making an interactive card, I always have like a template or a prototype. And I just ran my pencil right through the slot at the top of the keyboard. And then here I have grabbed a craft knife and I am just slicing a hole. So I'm actually going to do 2 that are parallel that are pretty close to each other, but I want that gift card to slide easily. For me, the key to a craft knife is to not feel like I have to muscle it all the way through on the first pass. So I have a ruler that's got a bit of a ledge on it and I just go over it a couple of times and it works every single time. My hands don't hurt. I'm not at risk of slipping and cutting myself. Because I don't know who would take care of me if my hands hurt. I'd be very grumpy if I couldn't make cards. All right, I'm going to glue my typewriter to the card base and I'm being careful not to get glue too terribly close to the slot on the typewriter because the slot in the back of the card or this panel is thicker and I don't want to glue weird things shut or make it hard to get things to move through there, or to have loose glue hanging out. So I'm double checking it with the gift card, with the cardstock piece. And now this is Simon Says Stamps, a Big Mama foam roll. If I'm gonna use foam tape, which I don't do very often, I like this one. It's 1 millimeter instead of 2. I need just enough room for a gift card. I don't need this to be the thickest card you've ever seen. I took the backing from the double-sided adhesive sheet I used earlier and I put some of that foam tape on there so I could easily cut some thin slivers. I want as much room as possible on the bottom for that piece of cardstock, the white cardstock, and my gift card. And then I am also going to add a little bit of wet glue and I'm sticking this into the corner of my Misti to make sure that everything lines up beautifully. I'm like holding my breath. It turned out great. Sometimes I make a card and I'm like, all the balls are up in the air and I feel like I'm juggling all the things. I was racing to get this card done as quick as I could. I had to work this day and then I was trying to like get the card done, get the gift card, pick up Finn, even though it wasn't my day to pick up Finn, get this to Miss Megan. So yeah, I'm busting out all the tricks I have to try to make sure I don't mess anything up. I was just checking the height of the panel and I made a pencil mark on where I wanted to trim that off. And I cut it down very slightly. I am going to stamp thank you at the top of this using the Altenew Pinstripes stamp set. And I am just lining it up to make sure it's straight. I feel like this thank you again has that sort of blocky, almost typewriter text. Then I am stamping this twice in Simon Says Stamp Cherry ink. It's a nice, vibrant red. It coordinates perfectly with the tops of my typewriter keys. I'm slightly off center. It's straight, but off center. So I trimmed off the very edge of it just to make sure everything looked neat and tidy. I'm checking it again constantly. Anytime I make an interactive card, I just check and double check and make sure everything fits. And I decided it was just slightly too tall. Again, I'm checking it again. Don't cut anything at this point if you don't know for sure. And then I'm also going to add pull at the very, not the very top, but like right under that thank you, so that she knows to pull, because the gift card's going to be attached to the back of it. So this is the Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency. And a lot of times for like these little pull or whatever, I will just freehand stamp that, but I really wanted this to go well. So I am using Gina K Obsidian Amalgam Black ink because I know that it will stamp and dry quickly. And I stamped straight onto the transparency the first time to make sure that it was lining up where I wanted it to. And then I can just wipe that off with a cloth and stamp it onto my thank you card. I'm using some removable adhesive and I will tuck that right inside the card. I decided to finish this off with some Honey Bee Stamps Reflection Dewdrops. I love these. Like, I love dewdrops of all shapes and sizes and colors, but these have like a little iridescent something that I just think is so, so pretty. Please let me know in the comments below if you have ever forgotten your kid. This was a first for me, and I just, Anyway, if you like this card, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.